So let me check. Okay, so we navigated to tabs. All right. Let's refresh, please. Something is not loading well. All right. So now, once we refreshed, we have it. Now everything is loading well. Hello, guys. Welcome back to another session of practical tutorial on Expo app development. My name is Eric Mensah. So today we would like to visit our project and continue with where we left off. I would be showing you some few tricks, or not exactly tricks, some few new tips on how to go about your programming. But today we'll be looking at the navigations in Expo, particularly the bottom navigation. So first, if your Expo has been, if your uh, Visual Studio Code is closed, you can launch it. I have my closed, so I'm launching it, and then you can go to files whenever you want to open it from. You launch it and there's no project in it. You can go to files and then go to open folder. That is this how to open it from a folder which is not the actual listing. So this is my project. I select the folder, which is where the project is actually residing. Okay, and now I have my export. So this is where we left off the last time, and we would like to continue from here. So first, let me get my Expo running. So now I've said it before. Whenever you're running an Expo command, begin with npx Expo before you now write whatever command. And I'm starting the Expo, the active section, or the Expo Go connectivity. Okay, so do Expo npx Expo start to start the interactive section with the Expo. So once that is running, let me get it ready on my phone. And mind you, my phone is doing the hotspot. I'm connected to my phone that via hotspot. So my phone is on the same network as the PC. Okay, because I'm using my phone as a hotspot for my laptop. So once that connection is established, or you are using a Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi in your area is connected to your phone and your laptop, you still be able to connect the two together. So let me get it running. Let me show you the screen. Okay, so this it. So as you can see, my first app is already on. My MacBook is actually running. So I can just click on that, and then it will start loading the project. So let's talk as it's running. Okay, so it's done. Okay, so now we are back to where we left off the other time. Now we are looking at navigation in Expo. Okay, we have done one part, which is when you have the app folder, which is initially what the entry point to your app is the app folder. So it gets the entry point, and then now every file you place in the app folder becomes a screen. That's the whole concept that I taught the other time. And I said that the index file will be the first screen that the app folder will load. Now, there is a way to actually um, show your screens um, in the actual in your code. And whenever you are doing your project in um, Expo using the Expo routes, there are actually two kind of layout or screens display. Now the one that we are seeing with the files, whenever we navigate through, like we see here, if I go back, oh, why is my going back changing? Okay, sorry, we just put here. So let's refresh. Okay, so when you go back, okay, so now I can go back. Now, when you go back, remember it's a routing technique, which means that um Expo routes and Expo is the whole React Native code is going to behave like a web page, something like the way when you are doing um, um, websites, and you have your server running, you have it opens the first page, which is usually the index file, and then you can now navigate through the various other files. It's the same thing with any file system, whether it's on your computer or whatever. When you launch any server, in this case our app, it will have to load a particular UI. The first UI in our case is now presented with for us by the index file, which is what we have seen here. Now there are other UIs that can be shown to us. I want to go through the Expo document to see some of the ways which we can have other UIs shown to us. So I'm opening the Expo document. As you can see, we are on the home page, which is the main page here. But I want to go to navigation. Okay, and we would be using, okay, file-based routing. File-based routing is what Expo will be using. So this is the one that we'll be using, and we want to, by the end of this tutorial, we want to get us back to where we started, where you saw the bottle navigation and everything. So that's my goal. But I want to teach you how actually this thing is coming together, your code is coming together to form that screen pages, so that you can do it on your own. So the first thing you come with is the app directory, and this is a special directories. I've already explained what this means, and the routing and everything. I've explained what everything means. And if you come across a code like this, sometimes you might see, oh, this is quite this exactly the same, but there's some few additions. Like you can see there's a separate style, um what do you call it, object that has been created here, right? This is a separate style object that has been created for you to style the home screen like I did earlier on. And there's a way to do that. It's very simple. I have my styling is inline. This is an inline style. In other words, I'm writing the style within the style object parameter. So you have a curly braces, and I've put in an object style as a curly braces within it. I can remove this and then put um, a variable, say star or star, as a variable for it to work. But I will have to define that variable here, either up here, constant on the file variable name. In my case, I'm going to call it styles. Okay, just like we have it here. Okay, you can put it anywhere, but I'm not going to put it as styles here. But I want something like styles container. Okay, now in other words, if I write styles, I can actually do style container, style title, style, so that I have all my styles for each display, and then I'll be able to show whichever one, whichever style that I want to apply to either a text or a button or whatever. Okay, so something similar like the way you do in web, but I'll make it quite easy to understand. So, but the first thing is that to create that style object like we have here, you will need to import a React component called style sheet. Sorry, style sheet, and you can see we have a lot of components or libraries, exposing several components you can use. We are not looking for the web one. We are looking for style sheet from React Native itself. Okay. Now this exposes a function called create for creating a style sheet, and then now you can, once you put in your curly braces, it takes an object, so you can't just write just one style. Okay, that's why it takes it as an object, so so that you'll be able to write multiple styles. So to have that multiple styles, I'm going to write it as in this case, say container, and I can paste my style that I copied from here, and then I can close it with a semicolon. So I have my style here. So if I save, my style will still be applied, as you can see. Okay. So if I want to change, for instance, this justified content was center, right? If I change it to say flex end, for instance, Are you on the home screen? Sorry. Oh, I went to the login. Alright. So we are not in the login. So let's go to the login. Okay. So now you see it has come to the back. It's at the bottom of the screen. Okay. So to place it in the middle of the screen, you can just do it this way. Now this is from the login screen. So this is how it is done. So let's go back to the index page and then let's try and clean this up before we get to the button navigation routing. So we can define it at the bottom. I've said you can place it anywhere. Just make sure that you bring a semicolon at the end of the, after you have defined your style, whatever. So you write constants at the definer. It's a normal practice in programming where you write, you can define a variable using in JavaScript. You can use var or let or const for constant. Now this means that once the variable is set, you can't change it during when the program is running. That's the only difference, and it's useful for creating objects like this. So don't worry, you're not doing JavaScript. So let's get into it. Styles, sorry, and style sheets. We choose the one from React Native. You expose the create is a function, so dot create, and then it takes something in here. We said it's a object, and the object should have the name that you are defining for each style, in this case container. Then I copied, okay, so I'm going to copy this one quickly and put it here for container, so that if I bring a semicolon, I can do styles dot container, and the style sheet will still be applied, as you can see. And I can do one for the text. So say I want to do one for text, and let's call this one title, and paste this one here, and we can write styles dot title. Okay, so if I want to say change the font size, this this a this font weight was bold, font size was 18. Oh, sorry. So we are back here. So you can see from the screen, I'm back to the index. Okay, so I went back so we can see it. Now if I change, say this is no longer bold, for instance, if I save, see has affected it. Yeah, so that's just that. So let's get back to our major work for today, which is the getting us to the various UI or the navigations. The um, so aside the app directory, which gives you a basic navigation using what we call slots, the Expo React Native. Okay, now what this means is that this index file has load, and the other files are also within the same like the same list of pages that can be accessed, screens that can be accessed. Now I'm going to call these files, each of these files, for different screens. I'm going to call them screens. So when you hear me say screens, I'm referring to the files within the app folder that are going to present themselves as a layout screen, a UI screen. That's what I mean by screen. To understand what I mean, if we create a folder here and then call it, say, settings. Okay, now this folder here is not a screen yet, it's a subdirectory. In other words, to understand what I mean by this, say, let me increase my screen. Say we have opened our app. The first screen that will be mounted, that will be rendered to the screen, will be mounted to a route. A route in this case, in every navigation system, when you are writing, you write a link in your URI or the URL to access the various routes. Okay, so it's like you have opened a folder on your on your it's like you have opened a folder, and that folder you want to go to a new and a different folder. That is what I mean by route. So in that case, the first one will be a forward slash, as you can see here. This forward slash is the first one. So it will mount the index file to the forward slash, so that whenever you route to the forward slash, just like we did here when we wanted to go back to the index file, we did the route path, the href path name to be the forward slash. Okay, so whenever we write forward slash, go to forward slash, when we click on the link or the button to allow us to move to the forward slash, to take us to the index, because that is the one that has been mounted to the the first root layout. Okay. So every other layout would follow suit based on either the file name or the folder. In this case, if we want to go to a file that is within, say, settings. So let's say settings. I have say settings. I have profile.jx. Okay, this is another screen, and let's export default and then function. Let's call this profile, or you can say profile layout, or whatever name you already know. Then let's return. Let's say the profile has a view, right? Let me write a text that says profile. Now let's import these views. Okay, React Native text is also from React Native, and let's arrange it nicely. Now if I am in index, okay, I'm index, and I want to go to this profile. This profile is under the folder settings. So if I want to navigate to, say, let's go to profile, for instance, I can't do profile from here. Let me remove this, otherwise our code will not compile. If I click on go to profile, I'll get unmatched route, because there's nothing like profile within this folder, this base folder. It mounted the backslash to index. Within this folder, app folder, there's no file called profile. Okay, there's a file called profile which is under settings. So if I want to navigate to profile under settings, I would have to first specify the subfolder settings and then forward slash, so that I have like this forward slash settings forward slash profile. So I'm in the index folder, or I'm the base folder, root folder, which is the app. So under app, which is the backslash, which is mounted to the index, but the next file that will be accessed would be the route. The next route that will be accessed will be the settings and then the profile. So if I save, let's refresh by run again. And now if I click on profile, it takes me to profile. I hope we understand that. Now, say once that is clear, so let's rerun so that we can go back to our index folder. So this is that. Now, if we want to have a tab navigation, actually, or a bottom navigation, we want to have it as in a tab format. One way of achieving that is to have a folder called tabs. Okay, now this folder is written this way with a bracket parenthesis around it to signify a group. Okay, now this tab folder would have several screens. Okay, So for now, let me use two screens. I won't have the index, okay, which is the first screen that will be loaded when I go to tab. If I put in tab, the same way if I have index, let me explain. If I had index here, okay, and I was navigating to, just like we did from index here, and we were navigating here, we would have mounted index with just settings if we had an index file already sitting in the settings folder. Okay, so let me copy this and paste this here. I want to explain this better. So let's call this index layout. Call it index. Let's call this settings index. Okay. Now, if let's leave the tab, let's get back to index from this page. We had settings, right? And we could not mount to settings because there was no file in settings that could mount. Now, when we placed index here, it has allowed us to have something like a base route for the index folder, where we have settings slash, which is this, in this case, this like this, without anything in front, to be mounted to the screen. And let me demonstrate what I mean by that. By let's clicking on go, and you see that we have settings here. We have it here under settings index. So if you get me, it's almost like the approach we have in web development. So we have settings, because we had an index file, which is the first file that will be run whenever we mount the settings folder in our route directory routing. Okay, the first one that will be mounted is the index, and it has the index. We could get the settings folder mounted easily because there was an index file existing. If there was no index file, it would only render what we have provided. But that in that case, we had to provide the screen that we wanted to go to directly under settings. Okay, so that would work. So if we don't get the difference, we will get confused. Now I want to do that because I want to explain why there's a need for us. We have this tab folder, okay, and there's settings, there's index.js. Why index.js? The same way I've done index.js in settings, is the same reason why we have it here. Said that if I go to index here, okay, if I go to index from this page and I'm mounting to the tabs, okay, and I do tabs, which is the tabs folder, and I go to tabs, you can see, let me change the name to tabs index. You can see you have tab index mounted to the screen, right? So you get to see that tabs have been mounted straightforward without even me. So if regardless of how I name the folder, okay. Now if I remove it to try and then access that folder, it will not work and then it will crash because I've been mounted already. Okay. So now it has taken me back because it's crashed already. Now, so let's go back to tabs. The screen does not match. Okay, so let's remove this from it. Okay, so I want you to see that it doesn't really matter whether the folder name has the bracket or it does not have the bracket. It's just the name that should be given to the tabs. So you can see I have this here. All right, have this one here, index. Now I go to tabs, navigate to tabs. Okay, so the naming of the folder doesn't really matter. It just has to have the index file for you to access the base, information from it. So let's go back here. Let's put our braces here so you now understand why there's a bracket and everything. So that when you open the project folder like this, and say you want to understand um, what do you call it, the screens navigations, and you get to see tabs. Okay, you have tabs and then you are getting confused as to why. Now I'm going to explain what do you mean by this root layout, underscore root. Okay, now there's a special a special file, like just like we have index to be the first screen that will be mounted for the UI. There's also a special root file. Okay, root file, which is how it actually defines how the screen should present itself whenever it is mounted. It will use the root file to describe how the screen that is going to mount would look like. Now, in the app folder, without putting in this special file, which is underscore layout, which is exactly the name as it says, it can be a JS file, it can be a JSX or a TX file or TSX file. TX stands for TypeScript, but we are going with JavaScript, so I would prefer using JSX file. Right now, this root layout here, if it is mounted and if you have it in your folder, in this case, I've placed this this layout, which is the root layout, in the app folder, which means that this is going to be for the app folder. Everything that is going to describe how the app folder is going to mount the UI on the screen, how it's going to appear. So to mount it properly as the UI, you do an export default and the function. Now the function name is, as you can see, it's called layout. You can give it any name, but usually root layout or layout, the two. Usually I prefer calling it layout. Now what this would do is to help you to know how your layout is going to be like when it is mounted. So when they say the app folder is mounted, which is the folder that should be present in your app for you to work, when it is mounted, how should the layout appear? We have two main ones that I want to talk about. The first one, that's when it is mounted, it should appear like, or your layout should appear like, is the one we call slots. Slots, and we can import this one from Expo routes. Slots. Now slots allows you to mount a layout without putting in any headers and header information, navigation information, and things like that. It's just a plain sheet layout. That is what slot does. In this case, when you use slots, your layout will be placed in the slot and there will be nothing in it. So if say I want my screen to have um, some kind of a name or information about the layout, what is mounted, say I put in a view, this one, and I'm going to put in a text, and I'll say header. Okay, let me import this one from React Native so you understand what I mean. Okay, and I'm going to place this slot here. What this means is that it's going to load whenever the screen is mounted. It's going to put this text view here as the base view, put in a text called header, okay, a title text like you have here, information in there, and then we'll place the screen that I've mounted within the slot. So let's save. Now, as you can see, it has gone far away in the screen because of the view layout that is being mounted. Now, let's put some information here. Let's make this a flex of 1, and we'll explain what that means. Now, when I place the flex of 1, you can see the information as shown. The header information is there. This is also there. Right, and I'm going to do it this way so that you get me. I'm going to give it a padding of 15. Okay, and a top top margin top, sorry, of about 40. Okay, now this means that this is now my header of the screen. So it gave me a plain sheet screen. Every page, so within this folder, app folder, every other screen, which is the other files we have here, is going to be within that file. It's going to be placed within the slot, and this thing here, which is these informations we have here, are always going to show on every screen. So let's do a navigation to see what I mean. Let's go to our index file, and then we are not going to go to the tabs this time around. We are going to go to, say, login. Okay, so let's change the text here. Now, if you see, we are in the login, but still we have header on the screen as you can see it here. So this is what we mean by the UI layout, root layout. Now, this root layout can also be a different one, and the other different one is what we call the stack, the stack layout. The stack layout is a little bit different from um, the the slot, where it sticks whatever you have and place it there. The stack layout, place it there just like the root layout slot will do. But this time around, it gives the header information and everything by default. Let me explain what that means. So let's remove what we have here, and then this time around, we are not going to use this text. We're going to use the stack. Okay, as the root layout, and we are going to import that from here. Let's remove this. We don't need it again. Now, if you look at this, now you can see I have login as a title, and I have a button to go back without having to click on any go back. So my root layout right now is not just a screen without a header information or as to where to navigate to, whether I'll be able to go back or not, and all those things. The stack screen gives you a screen with navigation information so that you'll be able to go back, or descriptions as to information on the screen, then title of the page, if there are other functions, other icons you want to place there. The stack screen is much flexible, unlike the slots. So this is a way to describe how your navigated screen that you have entered into is going to be like. And you can stack other screens on top of the other. You can have a stack screen and stack another stack screen in it, or you can have a slot screen and stack a stack screen in it. And this is what I'm trying to do with this button navigation. So I want my app layer to actually have a slot, okay. Then when I navigate from the slot, okay, when I navigate, so let's go to the index, and this time around we are going to the tabs, right? We are going to the tabs. So let's do this and make it tabs. Okay. But in the tabs, I'm going to put this layout, base layout or root layout description here. Do a layout here. And this time around, let me copy what I have here. And I'm going to use a stack screen, not a slot. Okay, for this one. Which is in my tabs, um, layout. So when I go to tabs this time around, you can see I have index as the folder and the first index file, which is the tab layout that I have here, and I can have other files in it. Let's say I have an index which will be my home, and say settings. Right, this is much better. Let me get rid of the settings folder. So I have my tab, and I have in my tab, the tab layout is actually a stack layout, and it has the index layout, which is the first one I'll be loaded. I'm going to make this tab tab home tab, okay, and I'm going to have so let me copy this one, and this one will not be that, it will be a screen. So I'm going to call this settings screen, and let me change this index to be my home screen. Okay, so my index is the home screen, so the tab, and this one will be tab settings. So let me check. Okay, so we navigated to tabs. All right, let's refresh, please. Something is not loading well. All right, so now once we refreshed, we have it now. Everything is loading well. Okay, so the index is the tab home. So we have this tab, but you can see that these tab screens are on different stack. So if I want to go to another screen, I'll have to specify that screen. I don't have a bottom navigation view where I can click on it and it just navigate to the next screen for me, and nothing like that. So in our next video, we are going to look at how to apply a tab view or UI to the layout here, said that whatever it shows will be a bottom navigation stack rather than just a normal stack of screens.